All right to organize. Should workers have the right, in your opinion, to organize?
Can you go in depth about the explanation of that?
Right to organize, for example, if you have unsanitary work conditions, do workers who are employed by that particular company have a right to get together, organize, maybe by way of a union, and demand that the conditions be changed?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
For you.
Okay.
I bet it was, so I saw the benefits of having a union than versus not having a union. There are certain things that, they make sure that happen, or, the right to organize. When you can organize because they let you know you have certain rights, and they cannot retaliate on you when you have those kind of rights to organize for, like you said, unsanitary things like that. So I've always said, man, if most people, businesses had unions here, it would be better off. They would force these businesses. So when you don't have unions, look at the profit that these businesses
You
have.
don't have a voice, do you?
And they don't have a voice,
Yeah.
and these businesses making all these profit, and they pretty much doing what they want to do.
Yeah, one
You
of the
get all the profit, but you don't want to give nothing. That's not wrong. So if you have a union, you know the wages will be higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the main things our people need is protection.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
far as with the police, we don't got no protection. Like in the white community, they get stopped. They have lawyers. They have different things that can get them off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So being able to organize is just protection for our people. You know what I mean? So for all the things that he was saying, like, hey, we can start addressing our work needs. Without it, we can't address our needs. It's just going in one ear and out the other, and we still basically getting oppressed in the workforce.
And they fire you. They're like, okay, fire you out of here. You can't fight back.
Now, I do believe that there should be a right to organize, but I also believe workers should have. I believe, like in security, we say there's a chain of command. As in, there has to be a chain of command when it comes to organizing. It's not, okay, we have poor sanitation, we're gonna organize tomorrow. Then you bombard the supervisors and the CEO, and they're like, okay, what's going on?
So
So,
what you're telling me is those are the conditions in which we should organize.
yes.
I disagree.
I see.
I disagree. The reason
Wait.
why I do disagree is because what you find in organizations like that is you have some big man sitting in the office, and then when you want to complain, you never actually have the opportunity to get to him because you go to the first supervisor, oh, this is my issue. They sweep it under the rug. So I believe every employee should have the opportunity to go straight to the man who can make change, because without it, anybody can just continue to sweep them problems up under the rug.
No, so this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there has to be accountability. As in, what I know how my job goes. As in, if you're my supervisor, I'm gonna approach you. You say, Daphne, no. And one thing we need to learn is record every conversation. My supervisor said no, next person in chain. Next person in chain said no, until I get to the CEO. This is why. Because even when you go up in command, in security, when I go up in command, they ask you, did you speak to your supervisor? Did you speak to the person below that? Did you inform this person? Because accountability is not only for the one person in power, it's for the chain of command. So when you even get up to the CEO, he's gonna ask, how were the supervisors, how were the people above you in the chain of command, how did they respond to that?
Now what if
So
the
making
supervisor?
sure-
Now what if the supervisors are the one that's causing the issues? You can't go to your supervisor and say, "Hey, you're mistreating me." They're going to sweep it under the rug. So why can't you, as an employee, have the ability to go directly to the person who can change your situation?
Exactly.
Because this happens all the time. All the time, supervisors are the one that are doing it for whatever reason. Maybe it's personal reasons. Maybe they don't like you. Whatever. Maybe they don't want to see you become promoted. So your supervisor, your chain of command could be the one who's preventing you. So why should you not be able to go directly to the man who can get something solved?
So I believe you should be able to have direct access to the person who's on top of the chain of command. The reason I say there should be a process to it, and there has to be recordings, is because one thing I know legally, people do not take word of mouth. It's not he said, she said what. There has to be a recording. There has to be proof. That's why I'm saying go step by step, recording every process, recording every answer, recording every response. Because if they follow the book, or if they're not following the book, they're gonna see that in the recording conversation you had together. They're gonna see that in the videotaping. That's why I'm saying you go in the chain of command, and if you're not getting the right response, when you organize, you're not organizing opinions, you're organizing facts that people can see. You're organizing not only how you feel, but your feelings are documented.
The only thing that I can see is the documentation part. I'm not saying there shouldn't be no order to it, but what do we do when that chain of command fails us, though? Like, I get the documentation part.
Now, we're not going to have a debate here. Remember,
No.
we're just sharing our opinion
Yeah.
regarding the particular topics.
Yeah.
These are very good. This is what you're saying is valid, but this is good. We're not gonna solve it tonight.
Right.
We're not gonna do that. And so,
Right.
but we just wanna share our opinions on both sides of the coin, so that way we
Right.
have something rich and something substantial.
And that's good, like you said, on her point is good, and his point is good, because in the workplace, sometimes, like he said, like I worked for the company 20 years before I left last year, and they'll tell you, like you said, if it's coming from the supervisor, and you already know you can't, if the supervisor comes, there's other chains that you gotta go to, and they may say go to the store manager. But if you don't want to go to the store manager, there's another place you be able to go to without them knowing. Because sometimes if you go to, like you said, the chain, there will be retaliation against you just because you went. So it had to be where, from both sides, like you said, yeah, you do go to the chain, but there has to also be areas where you can get around that so they don't retaliate against you, because that's what happened to the workplace. Just because you go to them, now it's like you're marked. You're marked. You're a troublemaker in the workplace, but you're not, because just because you said something. So what happened in the workplace? Most people keep their mouths shut and accept what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess I'm on both ends. I really can see that, and having worked in corporate America and manufacturing for a long time, my experience has been, if I had issues with this young man right here, and I bypass him and go to my manager who's next in command, she'll immediately ask, well, did you go talk to him?
Yeah.
And so I find myself going back, and I've always documented. And then nothing resolved, then follow the chain of command, go there.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself going up until it's resolved. And then companies have what you have called like a helpline.
Like ombudsman?
Yeah.
It's an 800 number. You can't get nothing resolved, then it goes straight to headquarters.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've seen over and over again happen.
Yeah.
With
Exactly what
those companies that don't have a union
Yeah.
to give you a voice.
That's true.
I was in the military for 20 years. I was in the United States Air Force. I retired after 20 years. And you talk about chain of command. Yes, there is a chain of
yeah.
command. However, it depends on the situation as well. Each individual situation just depends, right? Well,
Right.
my commander at one of my stations had an open door policy. You know, if you need to come and talk to me, you can. You don't have to go through your supervisor, your first sergeant, or whatever. Open door, come to me, because he wanted to know what was going on with his troops, his soldiers. So yeah, it's both sides of the coin, man. It's like that. But if you have a situation where you can't talk to your supervisor, you should be able to go around to someone else, like the whistleblower. Nobody knows but you and that person, so you won't get in trouble, like Ricky was saying.
I think unfortunately that you really just judged on your value to the company. That's all depending on how fast you get to where you need to get. Because if you're replaceable, you definitely will not get to the executive director, or because the mid-level people handle that. Like I said, unfortunately, I'm not saying it's fair. That's what I experienced. I'm executive director.
You're an executive director?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't, like, I consider some stuff tedious, which might be some people's income of life, but It's just how it is. That's why you have them people in them places. You have your managers, your supervisors, you have, that's why you have people in them places, so it don't get to you. They're supposed to be problem solvers,
Right.
actually. So, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but, it's pretty much based on the value. Of course, if it's the, the assistant, or supervisor that's having a problem, he has a quicker pipeline to the executive director, because his value is more, actually, not as a human being. I'm talking about as skill set, actually.
I agree with you, guys. I agree with you to the point where that is how it is. But you made an interesting point about the value. Yeah, this man may be more valuable as a worker, but we also back to or being able to organize in unions. We need to be able to protect us as humans. We need something in place to protect our human rights. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, that is how it is. But I think that's the beauty of why we're here, because it don't always got to be that way. You know what I mean? It's time for a change. You know, if things are happening on the workforce and it's not right, we can change it. It don't always have to be that way.
Okay. Well, moving right along here, how do you feel about rent control? Because I've been hearing about affordable housing and rent going up and lease going up. So I don't want to be presumptuous and assume that all of you are for it. So I'm asking, how do you feel about rent control? And under what conditions do you think rent control should exist?
Well, how they control it now? By your zip code. Everybody know if South Raleigh, you know what the zip code is. That's what they looking at. If you're in South Raleigh, they already looking by your zip code. And the thing about it, they're not hiding it. See, that's the thing about what we have to look at. They are putting things out and they're not hiding. But we're not paying attention. We're just going on in life like it's, but we have to pay attention what they're doing. So if we're not paying attention what they're doing, then now we want to talk, but we're not reacting or doing anything about it, because it's all based on your zip code. If you live in 276, I live in 27610. You already, they put that area like rent. It's like, for instance, what's happening now? Based on Southeast Raleigh, what are they doing now? They're trying to get us out of there. Rockport, all around. They're trying to get us out to sell and get out. Why? Because look what they're doing. They're building up. But who they're building up for? So how can you control the rent? I'm for rent control, but here's the problem. If you do not have the economics, that's where we failing. When you say rent control, if we're not fighting for the economics, then whoever control the economic control, we can talk about rent control all we want to. So we can't just talk anymore. You have to fix economics in our communities. We have to. Because if not, it's like what you were saying earlier. If we look at political, see the Me Too movement, all that is good, but it doesn't matter if you don't have nothing, because they laughing at you. Protest all you want, march all you want, but if you ain't got nothing to fight. And we have to be in that, like this group here. We got to move from talk to doing something. We got to come up with the resources. And you know, I was having a discussion with some older guys. They said, well, you're a local politician. Well, your local politician is still bound. He can only do so much. I don't care whether he's black or not, he can only do so much. But what it's coming down to now is what we do as average people do. So we can't control the rent because if we can't control the economics. The politicians ain't gonna do it. They can shake your hand, hey, I'm such. And you know they lying. They got to do that just to get your vote, right? But then when they get in it, they don't do nothing because they still bound by what? Who has the control? Were you with us or not? It's about who has control. So they control the rent. So as we see it going on, we see what's doing. They got a beautiful name for it, don't they? Called revitalization. I know what that's all about. So, you know, got control.
So aside from economics, is there any other factor that goes into play in terms of having some type of impact upon rent control?
Yes, to me, when it comes to rent control, factors that affect it come with policy. And they also come with people who are in the political aspect that do affect those features of rent control. As you said, it is affected by zip code. And we also have gentrification in the happening. So it's not even just zip code, it's raising prices from a ridiculous standard that people in that area cannot afford because they're trying to find any way to gentrify it.
Right.
And when I was working in advocacy, we sat down, you know, because I thought that at a certain point, what can you do as a people? But I sat down with the Department of Transportation advocating for, you know, sidewalks and, you know, transportation routes. From that, I sat down with local people in power. We went to Capitol and we sat down with Republicans and Democrats. And the one thing with some of the people that we do have in power that I was advocating for is they don't understand issues of rent control because they've never had to, you know, face an issue where they can't pay rent.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes it's hard for people to understand a perspective that they don't have to deal with when they come home. You know, you can't tell me about walking in your shoes because I'm walking in mine, you know? And realistically, it's also understanding that we have to write these letters to the right people. We have to shout our voices at the right people's offices. Because sometimes we can sit down and gather as ourselves, but there's so much that we can do. There's so much I can do as a people. But I don't think that we should give the elected officials the comfort that they do have in office, because I feel like we give them enough comfort because we don't make enough noise. When I was advocating at Capitol in Washington, I was advocating for something that people in the community told me were an issue, that people in the community told me that they've been advocating for years. But when I went to the senator's office, he said, Daphne, I've never heard any of the people's voices you're talking about. So they must have been making noise at the wrong person's office. I don't have a letter. I don't have names. I don't have nothing. So I don't know who they were talking to, but it wasn't me or it wasn't my office. So when I came back, I assured that the people who told me they were making noise, I told them, I don't know where you guys were making noise at, but this is the direct line. So it's making sure we have access to those direct numbers and direct lines, because one thing with policy, this is our city, and I don't know how rent control is coming up, because when I was canvassing, a lady was living in an apartment for 15 years, and last year they raised the rent on her by $200. They did not renovate anything because they told her her apartment building is a historic landmark, and for that it's not going to be renovated, but the price is going to come up on her. So she was facing eviction. So a woman like that, you wonder what she can, you know, you wonder her situation, she can only do so much. So making sure that the people we have in power are held responsible and we don't let them feel comfortable until something is done is super important. So some kind of noise has to constantly be made, because I know as political advocates and people who sit down and do change policy, they have a power. We were working on House Bill 18 to change. And with the voices that we had, the noise that we made, they granted our request within 6 months. Now, if they can grant our request and they change the policy from the noise we were making, I know they can change something when it comes to rent control, because they did that for our request. So they can do something. It's that you have to make the right noise to the right people, and you have to be consistent with it.
Yes. What about equal pay for equal work for women?
100%.
I heard of.
I didn't mean to do that.
Will it ever happen?
Can you
You know
flush
what?
that out? Yeah.
But you know what? We said, here's how we should look at equal pay, whether you're female or male. If you can do that work, then you should have equal pay. But we'll look at it, equal pay for women and men. But if you can do the job, whether you're a woman or man, you should get the same pay. That means if you're a man, you're doing something and it's $20 out, and that woman can do the same thing, then she should get $20 out too, in that case. That's a hand, you know, it should be that way.
Automatic.
It should be automatic. I'm for that, man. I don't believe that whether you're white or black, whatever. If you can do you should not say, I'm gonna pay him 20 and pay you 15 for the same work. It's not right.
And also to say that that's actually really powerful because when we were both canvassing, Denzel and I, we went into this lady's house. Door-to-door canvasses really inspired me. But went into her house and she said she was in a job where she was working the same position as a young man who did not even go to school for the job that they were doing. And she had an entire degree in that career. He was making about $7+ more than her. Now, I don't know when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution. I don't know who wrote these laws and policies, but I believe that when it comes to equal pay, people are living in a very unrealistic, backward generation where men were the heads of the household. So they believe that men should earn more because men are the backbone. But to be realistic in the world that we live in, I don't know who to blame, if it's society or just men's decisions, but they're literally, single mothers are the men of the households right now. A lot of households only have mothers. So when a man makes more than a woman, it's kind of a slap in a woman's face because women naturally in our generation, I don't care what continent or what country, are doing more in a household than a man ever could. So I believe when it comes to equal pay, I honestly don't even believe it should be equal pay. I believe women should earn two or more extra dollars to what a man is making because women do more than men in this generation. Women are the backbone.
That's why I disagree. I agree with.
Yeah.
I agree with.
I disagree with that.
No, exactly.
There's way more single mothers right now.
That's where I'm coming
I
from.
disagree with that.
That's where I'm coming from as well.
statistics
That's where I'm
do
coming
you
from
have
as
to
well.
Support that claim. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you, but
Okay.
I'm a statistician, and I
Okay.
hear people throw that term statistics out there a lot, but they don't have evidence to back it up, like a president. So I'd like to know what stats, and we can do this offline. So we'll get together later on.
Okay, no.
Go ahead, you had
That's
something?
why
Go
I was
ahead.
getting that. That's what I was getting at.
That's how we have to look at it.
I was getting that from a biblical standpoint as well. You know, like I'm for my women. My mother, she was wonders in my life. I preach all day. Women need equal pay. They do the job. They need to get equal pay. But I'm not gonna sit down and put down the women or say, oh, men are doing this, men are doing that, because it's no need to create that division. Yeah, we have a lot of brothers out here that's probably not doing what they need to do, but we have a lot of brothers out here who is doing what they need to do. And first and foremost, in the Bible, it says the man is the head. Now that comes with, balance, and it's more into that. But I'm not about to sit here and put down my sisters and say, oh, they not doing this, or they not, or my black men. So, yeah.
Okay, just for understanding, the perspective that I'm coming from is men are ahead. I'm not putting anyone down. But I'm trying to be realistic in a family, in a household where there is no man to be no head.
But that's not in everybody's household.
Listen, exactly. Now, one thing that I do believe that I'm a strong believer, there has to be some kind of stipulation. The issues that I've heard from single mothers are issues that are really hard to pronounce. But I believe women have to already have equal pay. But some standard of living and the kind of economy that we're having has to be provided for women, because it's unrealistic to raise all these kids as a woman. Prices, we just talked about how much people are getting paid. It's not enough. And in a household where it's supposed to be 2 incomes and one is coming in, some kind of stipulation has to be provided for women to realistically raise their children without having to break their back. For the men who are there to help their wives, to raise their kids in the traditional biblical aspect, that is highly appreciated. But I can't clap my hands because that is the biblical obligation. I am only speaking for the women who are raising it on 1 income when it's supposed to be 2.
Now think about this. Now, what did they say? Okay, boom, for all single mothers, for doing the same job, we're gonna give y'all $28 and give him $23. Is that not the same thing? Equal pay, equal work.
So what I'm saying, Denzel, you have
What
to
if
understand.
it's a single father?
Exactly. Now, right now, I'm representing women as a woman. For single fathers, that's a fight that I cannot represent because I'm not a woman.
That's
I'm
why I
not
say
a mother
it should
either.
just be equal across the board.
And you have to, in situations like that, though, I do believe that you have to look at each individual case.
Right.
You can't put everybody, all single women,
Right.
in one thing. Because I'm a single mom.
Been there.
I'm a single mom. I was married, and after 10 years of marriage in the military, I raised my son for the last 10 years of my 20 years. In the military now, and we 24/7, 364. You know, we working 14, 16 hours a day, weekends, holidays, you know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, when I got to spend some time with him, you know, it was not, okay, the amount of time, the quantity, it was the quality, how I spent that time. So you have to look at each individual situation. You can't,
Right.
well, you can't really say, okay, well, all women should make more money than men because we're single moms, and yeah, we multitask, we can do spinning plates and all that stuff. I think we can do more of that than you guys. I'm just messing, but yeah, it has to be an individual
Yeah, it's
case by
individual.
case. You can't,
Also,
I think about for that.
case
also-
I think about for that.
it's a lot more to that. Even I like where she's coming from, but there's a lot more to that subject there. Probably with that subject, it would get heated because there has to. When she say single women, when I look at that, and the thing I look at it raising the kids, I say, too, you have to take the responsibility as a person. See what I'm saying?
Choices.
Who you're dealing with.
Choices and
Because if you know you get with a man, for instance, he ain't got no job, you have 2 children, and now you come and you saying, this is what I need as a woman. To me, you gotta look at the choices that you make too. Because that could be a factor in the choices you make. You can't say, well, now that man is sorry. Well, you made that choice yourself to be with that person or that man, vice versa. And a lot of things I see in that I don't see the responsibility. They want to say, well, this man, no. Okay, what the choice did you make? Well, if I met you, for instance, if I met you in the club, and I knew how you were, and you knew how I were, and we got together. Now you can't blame me, right? You can't blame me. But what happened to a lot in that situation? Now they get single parent. Now they having these children, 3 or 4 by the same man who you already know ain't got no job. Now we saying you should have more. I'm saying, okay, there's also got to be a responsibility, accountability for the woman and accountability for the man. And that plays a lot of factor in there.
Okay. I gotta keep this moving now. I gotta keep this moving now because we're not gonna make this Dr. Phil. All right. Okay. Now, 2 more and then we're done. Now, share with me. Do you think we as a people believe that our vote does not count?
You said it again.
do we
Do you
think?
think that we as a people believe that our vote does not count?
I think it's half and half.
You said in general, you just saying.
Yeah, just
by
as,
people that we
as,
know
as
and
black
stuff. Yeah,
people
I think-
collectively, do we think that there's some of us as black people believe
Yeah.
that our
yes.
vote
Yeah.
Yes.
does
Some of us
not
do.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
flush that out? Flush that out. Wow.
Definitely, because even during canvassing, a lot of times we have that question in our survey. If anybody has taken it, do you believe your vote matters? A lot of people say no. Why? Because even when I was doing the survey, a lot of people like, young girl, I was doing this when I was your age. I don't even know why you still out here doing this. Your generation don't need to be fighting this because our generation already did this fight. You know, so to me, that's like, wow. You know what I'm saying? People are telling me they fought this before in their generation. Why am I still doing this? And she's like, this is how I know my vote doesn't matter because you're still asking the same question. This survey still has the same things. Martin Luther King, anybody else from the past was trying to eradicate. You know, issues that people have died in honor of fighting for our community has been trying to eradicate are questions we're still asking in 2019.
So the assumption is that we shouldn't be fighting because right now we're still fighting the same thing.
Exactly.
So I guess their mindset is we should already knock this battle down. The fact that we're
Exactly.
not means I ain't fighting anymore.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
People are just giving up.
A lot of people, and you know, one thing is actually the older generation when they take the surveys, it's like they've given up. We even ask them, do you want to stay in touch? Are you interested in coming to, because that's in our survey, are you interested in coming to educate elected officials about issues that matter to you? Nah, young girl, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm old. I'm exhausted. I did all of this in my generation.
Yeah.
So, you know, I even try to encourage them. Well, that just means you just passing the torch on to us, because
Right.
each generation gonna have to fight a fight. She's like, I don't want to see my kids fight in no fight. So that's making feeling like their vote doesn't matter. And then our younger generation, you have our African American brothers and sisters. As a college student, every time we have issues, either on campus or individually, issues that have you feel like are not being touched, issues when it comes from police brutality. You know, we have students who can tell you in their neighborhoods their black brothers and sisters die every day from police brutality, and that's something that just keeps on ongoing. We have gentrification where people's families are getting wiped away. So when people are actually going through this currently in their life, and you ask them, does their vote matter? They don't even feel like their life matters, because they don't feel like they have a voice.
I think part of that is the reason people don't, they feel like they vote. I think the biggest problem we got in our community, if you don't know who you are and you don't know your history, then you lost. And I think that's what happened in the black community today. We don't know our history, and therefore we don't know who we are. So if we don't know who we are, we'll say, okay, it's not, to me, it's crazy not to vote because people died. I'm gonna exercise that. People voted, and I believe my vote. See, if you do, see, and see, it's reversed now of what it was back then. They want us to say our vote don't matter, because if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. To me, mentally, if you don't vote, to me, you can't tell me that. You tell me, brother, I don't vote. To me, you can't talk to me. You can't talk if you ain't fighting, because every generation got to keep on fighting. We got to keep on fighting. If you see what's happening, so everything is reverse of what it was then. Now it don't matter. Well, why they fight back then? It made change then. So why we don't think it can't make change now? It can. But what happened is we cannot have a when it gets time, for instance, like the Olympics. When you hear about people really practicing for the Olympics, is the year it's going to happen. Okay, it's just like voting. We can't wait till every 2 years, every 4 years. We have to have something going on all the time that is in the front of our people's face.
That's
we have
powerful.
to do that.
That's powerful, because we have to learn. We have to learn that
Yeah.
voting is fighting. You see, in history and even now, when we think we fighting back, we riot. We do them things. But it's a song called "Maybe Both" by Sho Baraka. And in the song, he's saying, "Are they killing us with a ballot, from the ballot, or with a bullet? Or maybe it's both. Are they killing us with a pistol or a vote? Maybe it's both." So that's deep. You know what I mean? We got to learn how to fight in the ballots and with the votes.
Let me say this too. I met a retired General Assembly African American male, 30 years, here in North Carolina, part of the General Assembly. And this is what he told me. I told you this the other day. There's 3 things he said. That if whoever controls access to voting, whoever controls access to education, whoever controls access to the Capitol, controls the power. That's why the minority controls the majority. And so all of everything, again, you keep saying, aside from economics, but it all comes right back down to that, Professor, comes right back down to that. And it's good to find out all the different, variables that go into, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is about economics. That's what the man told me. He'd been in the General Assembly for 30 years. They didn't fought a lot of different fights in there.
Well, let me ask you this here, and then we'll be done. Then I'm gonna let you. The graduation rate in this country for blacks in 1958 was higher than it is right now. Now, mind you, we have more money in terms of education, in terms of schools, for students, and geographically. Per capita, we've got more money than we know what to do with.
Right.
But in 1958, we had a higher graduation rate in the black community among blacks. But how is it when we put more money into something and yet now the graduation rate has dropped? So it looks like throwing money into it won't work, but in 1958, you had values.
Okay.
You had accountability.
Right.
So you had a
Where's
different
the money
mindset.
going
You
to?
had a mindset. You had a
Right.
different mindset, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
What did they have in 1958? What did we have in 1958 more than we have now?
Accountability.
Segregation and youth.
We had businesses.
Mhm.
Black folks own more business in 1958 than we did now. So what we're doing now, I'm saying education is good, but it ain't the key.
I agree.
But we still think it's the key.
I agree.
Again, what she said, who controls the vote? Who control the
Education.
capital?
Education.
Again, if we don't have no capital control nothing, and that's the problem. So we had more business in 1958. That's why the education. They took education and said, now we're gonna take that and we're gonna build our community. We're gonna have businesses. We done reverse it. Say now I want my baby to have a better life than me. Okay, I want you to have a better life, but I don't want the handicap. What I'm handicapping you, the better life. I'm giving you everything, and that's what's happening. So we're not taking the resources that we got to making it grow or doing anything. It's just going out to. We cannot keep having only 98 cents every dollar we got goes outside our community. That's part of the problem right there. If you keep having 98 cents and out of 100% of business, only 2% of business owned by black people in America, that's our biggest problem. But if we got some resources, brother, we can fight, can't we? Because now it's gonna take some money to march. It's gonna take some money to get these people, because everybody knows. You said Bojangles over there, right? Okay, if we really came in Raleigh right now, all blacks say, look, this Sunday, every black, we ain't gonna go no Bojangles buy no chicken. I guarantee we'll cripple.
We show them
But
that.
In
that ain't
one
gonna
day.
happen 'cause you got a
That's what
different
they did back in the
mindset.
day.
That's what I'm saying.
They did boycott.
So you said right, and
It's
here's the mindset. Here's the mindset they know in our community. They know in our community. I didn't know about Nipsey Hussle until I read when they had a funeral in Staples Center. I'm like, wow, that's
He was
huge.
doing black
I want to
business.
read about this brother here. Once I
doing black
found out
business.
about it, what we have to do as we talking, we can't sell out. They know we'll sell out for $1. We'll sell out for $1. And in other words, I could put 10 white men in an elevator. I know they're all white. But I put 10 blacks in it. I don't know if they're all black. They black in color. This is a
That
mentality.
mindset. Yes,
So
ma'am.
to answer the last question about also voting, one thing we have to realize, and one thing that I have faced, a lot of our people have been incarcerated. And from incarceration, they feel like their vote doesn't matter. So a lot of people didn't even want to take the survey because they thought that, man, don't talk to me. I've been incarcerated. I ain't gonna matter. I had to actually remind them that you're human, because they know that they're a slave to the state. They know the issue. I even talked to a man who was in a halfway house. He said, "Sister, I don't think my voice gonna help you." I said, "It really is." So that's one of the issues, the incarceration rates that have got our people to believe that they're not even people no more. They're in property. And also, just to let you know, with education, we do have more HBCUs now than we did in the past. I mean, I didn't live in the 1950s, but one thing that I know through history is back in the day, black people literally took every single opportunity they had because it wasn't so much. So when any opportunity was given, they made sure that they utilized that, not by themselves, but they utilized it for each other.
Right.
They were a community.
That's
Even
right.
the alumni tell me all the
Yeah.
time, we worked as a team. We were a family. They used to tell they told me when they came here for homecoming, this campus had nothing. We made it something. Now the problem with sometimes I'll say my generation to take accountability is we have to look at what our brothers say here. Sometimes it's the images that the media portrays, because these days it's not parents raising the kids, it's the media raising the kids. Kids are looking at, people want the fast way out. College is 4 years. People want one way to get rich real fast. A lot of my classmates dropped out of school to do music because they want to be rappers and make money. A lot of people want the fast way to wealth. Then you have people in the media eye who didn't even go to school, but they're rich. So kids are looking like, what's the use of this? What's the cause of this? Then also we have to look at, it's a lot of kids who are first generation going to HBCU. A lot of my classes are first generation. Mom and dad do not help them do a resume because mom and dad didn't do it. Mom and dad don't tell them how to apply for a job when they graduate. So a lot of kids are here really winging it. A lot of kids are guinea pigs in their families to how this is done. So when a lot of kids come here, their only inspiration and motivation is the professor. So if I'm here and mom and dad did not inspire me to come to college, I'm trying to do this to make a name for my family. And I come in class and the professor says one thing, it might shut down the kid's dream and that's it. I'm gonna drop out. I'm gonna find an easier way out. So one thing that we also have to realize is accountability for the kids that we have in school now, and to nurture them as well, because a lot of kids are lost. College is one of the biggest places to get lost because you can be anything in college. In high school, teachers keep accountability for you. But in college, you come and get lost. You in college, even as a college student, you too busy trying to find out who you want to be. You're not even focused on class. I have classmates who do not even come to class until the last week of school because they're too busy trying to find out who they want to be. They don't know what's going on. They're the first person in the family to do this. Peer pressure. Those are issues that in the 1950s were not priorities, because in the 1950s, it was about take every single opportunity that's given to you. Now in our generation, it's so much opportunity, you're confused on what path am I supposed to take. A lot of kids are trying to be providers for their families, and they don't know if they should focus on school or a job. I have classmates who prefer to miss class and go to work because they know the importance of money, not the importance of an education. So I believe that's something that needs to really be reinstalled, actually installed, because it was never installed to start with.
I even
Because-
think something he was saying, we gotta, we as people, we gotta know who we are. We gotta know our history, or we're gonna be lost. And we gotta know our role. Like as a man, I gotta know, okay, I need to do what I gotta do so one day I can raise this family. I can do what so like basically what you're saying, our priorities,
Yeah.
our priorities are going by the wayside. Our morals and our priorities are not in the right place.
Yeah.
A man has a
Yeah.
role, a woman has a role, and we gotta know how to play those roles.
Right.
Facts.
And the other part of HBCU is, here's what we got to understand, HBCU. When we deal with our students are taking, we got to look at America, the world today. A lot of our kids are taking classes of something that never going to get, to me, now, here's my feeling. If your family don't have a business, it's a waste of time to take business administration. To me, if you're gonna take business administration, your family got a business so you can start out, so you can help that. Cause most people take business administration, they're never gonna own a business. They're looking at, so then they come out with these student loans. Now you got to go to work. You cannot pursue your dream because you got this over here. We also got to look at, like I was saying, what is the country like? One of the things, one of the pastors, they had a science come down because we're not in places like science, so we're not looking at the things of the future in America, and so our kids are not going to school for that. That's part of the problem too.
Well, this has been great. It's 7:25. Thank you. Give yourself a hand.
That was all right.
We'll get you well.
Very rich.
So what do you say you do now?
Excellent, excellent, excellent.